What's up guys, Jordan Hardy here, boxing reporter. You don't have to just be a professional fighter to use Victor Conte's Spider Training Stack. I use it every day when I'm working out in the gym to stay fit. I'm Jordan Hardy and I'm snack strong.
Hey everybody, Marcos Villegas here in Los Angeles, being joined with the father and trainer of Shawn Porter, Kenny Porter. You guys are going into this unification this Saturday, a chance for Shawn to grab another belt. You spending time with Shawn, this whole process, this whole camp. How is he mentally coming into this week?
The best he's ever been. He is the best he's ever been, totally balanced across the board, mentally, physically, emotionally, nutritionally, spiritually. Everything has been just basically it's been perfect. Couldn't ask for more.
What's made it so perfect? What do you think that is in there, the combination?
I don't think it's one thing that I can just totally point out, but I definitely believe the magnitude of this fight, the guy that he's fighting, having a son now, being on pay-per-view, I think all those things encompassed together has brought him to this clarity in his mind that, you know, I want this, and he has not taken a step back. He hasn't slowed down. He hasn't hesitated. He hasn't gotten tired. He's just given us everything above and beyond that we could ask for.
How has the pressure been?
No pressure.
No?
Absolutely no pressure. You're a guy that uses a microphone and camera all the time. And it's not a brag, it's not a boast. You see Shawn when he's on the camera. He loves it. He is very comfortable in this setting, so there's no pressure here for him at all. I don't think that he would have it any other way than to be a part of this big pay-per-view show. I mean, it's even showing in the movie theaters, AMC movie theaters. So, I mean, like I told him, I said, man, if you weren't fighting, I would love to go to a movie theater and watch a movie. Watch a fight in a movie theater. But no pressure at all.
When you look at the nitty-gritty of this fight, what do you think it's really going to come down to?
It's so many things. It's not just one thing. See, because Errol Spence is a complete fighter. He's a great fighter. He's got speed, he's got power, he's a southpaw. That within itself, being a southpaw, adds a lot of difficulty. But beyond that, you know, his determination and his heart are, you know, everything that you want in a fighter. So it's not going to be just one thing that we can do at one given time and expect, okay, we just did that and it was good that round and we can come back with it again next round. Not with Errol Spence. With Errol Spence, you're going to have to stay true to making adjustments, creating situations. If you only get an inch, take the inch. If you can get an inch and turn it into a foot, do that. But you know, it's not one thing that I can point out with him and Errol, or one thing that we're going to be able to do against Errol, because he does all things well. He's very good at everything.
What if Errol flips the script and he's the one that comes forward and pushes Shawn back and tries to bully Shawn?
I fully expected that. That's flipping the script.
Well, I know, because a lot of people would think like he'd want to create distance because he's a little bit longer.
If he tries to create distance, then we'll deal with that. But I fully expect Errol to be coming at us and trying to, you know, as he said, get a knockout. So I hope he goes for the knockout.
Why?
Because a guy committing a knockout or trying to go for a knockout is just like a guy in baseball going up swinging for the home run. You know, you need to take your time and just make contact with the ball. But if a guy just going swinging for the fences, he may strike out. So that's happened a lot of times.
You had a chance to coach Errol when he was young. Right. So you're more familiar with him and how he thinks and how he interprets things than most. What do you think is in there that's maybe like a disadvantage or really you feel can offset him?
I don't think there's no disadvantages with Errol. I know he's changed a lot since I worked with him in 2011, 2012, and then also again when he came to Vegas and he sparred Mayweather, I was actually with him that day. And I've seen where him and his coach have both downplayed the fact that I ever worked with the guy, like I never existed. But, you know, I was a head coach that took him to Russia. I was the head coach that took him to the Ukraine. I was the technical coach on the team that went to the World Championships in Azerbaijan. So, and then I was the guy that was taking his mouthpiece out of his mouth when he sparred Mayweather. So I've actually had a close relationship with him. I don't think a guy goes on TV and say, I love your dad, if he don't mean it. So he didn't get on there and say, hey, me and your dad cool, or I like your dad. He got up there and he said he loved me. I love Errol Spence too. But Friday night, you know, I got to be his worst enemy. There's not one thing that I can pick out that I can say that Errol did that's going to help us to win. But I've got to do everything I can to make sure that I give Shawn as much information during the fight to make sure that he's prepared to go out there and deal with what Errol is doing, because Errol is a great fighter. And the one thing that I remember about Errol coming back to a corner telling me when we're in Russia is, I said, Errol, I need you to use your jab more. Step around this guy and box him and use your jab. And he said to me, I got to make him respect me, coach. So Errol is all about making somebody respect him. So I fully believe that every time he says he wants to knock Shawn out, and knowing that he demands respect, that's going to be what he's going to try to come to us with.
With that knowledge and knowing the weaknesses that he had back then, do you still see those same weeknesses, or has he improved?
I didn't consider that a weakness. No? It wasn't a weakness.
No, not that, but the other, if he had any other weaknesses back then when you coached him.
Nah, he's always pretty much been a complete fighter. He really has. He's always been a great young fighter when he was younger. And, you know, he won multiple national championships, and that's when we got together. When he got to the national level, I was one of the international coaches. So, no, that's, you know, he's everything that you would want in a fighter. And a guy that, you know, when you go to war, you got somebody that you want to be in a war with.
So how tough is this fight then?
It's going to be the toughest fight of Shawn's life. Yeah. But on the other side, it's the toughest fight of Errol's life as well. Shawn has never fought anybody like Errol Spence. Errol Spence never fought anyone like Shawn Porter. That one sparring session they had that lasted for 4 rounds, it was nothing. Nothing that anyone can read or into or remember about it that stand out at all. I wish they had sparred more now that I could have more to look at, but it didn't happen.
Do you think this fight will be close? I know Spence, Errol, he mentioned that Shawn's fights tend to be close when they went back and forth with each other. Do you think it will be close?
I don't think he understands, and it's not a knock against him in a negative way, but I don't think he understands that truly when you're a professional fighter and you're starting the beginning of your professional career, they put the people in front of you that make you look good. I never allowed my kid, when he was 10-0 with 10 knockouts, to think he was this knockout artist. I made him continue to work on the things that he has to use now to be successful. I think Errol, I don't think he understands that a lot of that build-up to get you to where you're at was the things that promoters and matchmakers did to build you up. So there hasn't been a lot of resistance. He hasn't had tough guys in front of him repeatedly back-to-back fights. I think she said today, you know, 130-some rounds that he run out of all his fights. Easy, that's more than, you know, 70, 80%, 90% of his fights. He's been dominant. Now, what do you do when you're put up against something that you haven't dealt with before? When you hit somebody and they say, that's not enough and here I'm coming. We'll see what happens in that situation. But I fully expect this to be a hard-fought battle the whole entire way. Yes, I expect it to be close because Errol's that great a fighter and Shawn is as well. When you get to these levels, the Danny Garcias, the Shawn Porters, the Keith Thurmans, the Bud Crawfords, the Errol Spences, when they fight each other, you don't see a lot of knockouts with these guys. You see these guys fighting each other, and you see these guys competing, and they're great on offense and on defense. So when they get to this level, there's not a lot of guys going in there, click, and the other guys going to sleep. It's not happening. When these guys get to these levels, the levels level off. Same thing happened with a Sugar Ray Leonard and a Duran and a Sugar Ray Leonard and a Hearns and a Sugar Ray Leonard and a Marvin Hagler. They weren't knocking each other out. When they got to that level of fighting those type of guys, it evened out and the fights were closer.
With what you said prior that the right people were put in front of Errol to make him look like this devastating puncher, do you feel then that it was like a false narrative created around him that he's devastating puncher?
If you give me a young fighter and he's a great boxer but he can't punch hard, I'm going to make sure that I put him in a ring with guys that don't punch hard and don't have good movement. He's going to look good because he's got speed and he's got movement. If you give me a guy that's got great speed and punching power, I'm going to put him in a ring with guys that don't move and can't take a punch. And that's going to make him look good. It's just a part of building up a fighter. There's no negativity towards it. You know, it's just a part of what you do to build up a fighter. So this happens in every boxer's career, from, you know, a Shawn Porter to Errol Spence to a young Devin Haney to a Shakur Stevenson. All of these guys are getting the right type of fights that make them look good and build them up.
He said that he feels that he could knock out Shawn, but up there it was also brought up that he couldn't knock out a smaller Mikey Garcia. When you hear that, do you feel the latter, that, well, you couldn't knock out a smaller guy in Mikey? What makes you think you could knock out a full-fledged welterweight like my son?
No. I know everybody get in his ring. It can happen to anyone. Even though, you know, as I've mentioned about the levels, and guys get to these certain levels, and the talent will protect them. You know, they have the ability to defend. They have the ability to land punches. They have the ability to survive when they get hurt, those type of things. But there's always a chance anybody getting in there can get knocked out. It happens. You know, with that notwithstanding, you know, I hope he's coming for the knockout. Because, like I said before, if he's swinging for the fences, he may strike out. So I'd much rather see him try to do that than, you know, something that becomes a problem for us to try to figure out. Because we can figure out, if you're trying to knock us out, it'll be evident from the start, if that's what you're trying to do.
The experience factor is on your guys' side. These guys had fights with Thurman, Ugas, Danny. Certainly, you know, Shawn has fought the tougher opposition up to this point. How big of a factor is the experience, him being in these type of fights already early on, coming into this fight with Errol?
I think it's a great advantage to Shawn. If there's any advantage in this, that would be it. But none of that is going to truly determine what you're dealing with when, again, you're dealing with such a great fighter in Errol Spence, because he has the ability to make up the ground of this experience that he doesn't have with his fighting ability, his talent, and his skill level. He has the ability to close that gap. So I expect this to be a hard-fought 12, maybe a 12-round fight, hard-fought, and I expect my kid to come out on top of this.
All right, Kenny, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was good seeing you. Kenny Porter here, the head trainer of his son Shawn Porter, who's fighting in this unification fight this Saturday on Fox Pay-Per-View.